Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back. So what you need to know before upgrading your internal SSD or NVMe drive in your computer or even outside, okay? Now, typically these B&M key drives, these are SSDs. They're not really any quicker than the laptop sized SSD drives that can go inside or outside of your computer. In fact, anytime you put the drive outside the computer, it's way slower. Internally, definitely a lot faster, okay? So anyhow, this one here came out of the HP laptop that I won from MDG quite a while ago. And that was kind of an interesting laptop. It was free, so you can't complain. So I did do some upgrades to it for RAM and for drive space. Turned out that that computer supported not only this particular bus connection, but also our normal everyday M.2. So I went with an M.2 drive in that thing, and wow, what a difference! Like major, right? Now these drives do chew up a lot of amperage, and that's where you can see a lot of performance issue differences, especially going internal to external, whether you're going Type A, Type C, Thunderbolt. Internal, these M.2 drives, they perform the best always internal. You are going to definitely get very close to those rated speeds. If not, you could get bang on. You could get slightly over. It kind of depends on the drive too, because nothing's equal in life, right? And no two drives are going to be exactly identical, so it's always a plus or minus and some different fudge room there. However, the case that I put this into here, this one will only support the B&M key, okay? It will also support a key drive where the key is on this side and the rest of this is wide without the other key. It can support both. It's designed for that. But unfortunately, our small key is on the left side, not the right. So we can't use an M.2 because the key is on the wrong side. So we can't use it. We can't flip them upside down and use it. They don't work. They won't fit. Okay, so this case is very specific on the drives that it can actually utilize. Okay, now if you want to jump into some modern technology, you can get external cases that are for M.2 connection buses. Now, of course, whether you're going to be going with a Type C to Type A cable, or you're going to go from, where is that cable anyways? Here it is. So even if you have this kind of a connection going on, these are like weird, right? But even if this is A and this is C, don't expect a lot of performance out of this drive. It really is not going to perform that great externally, okay? Even Type C to Type C, it's not going to be all that much faster, okay? A little bit, but not that much. You could expect to see somewhere around 1,000 on the read, maybe 800s on the right, maybe 900s on the right side. It kind of varies. Thunderbolt, you get a lot more better performance too, right? With your computers, a lot more computer motherboards on desktop machines, okay, aka towers, okay, or desktop. They are now coming more and more with onboard M.2 buses, which are usually either a Express 3.0 or they're an Express 4, okay, or it could be just all Express 4, which is fine. You can still use an Express 3 drive into an Express 4 port because it's still the same key. It's how fast that bus is, right? 4 is definitely way faster. Okay, like 3, you're pretty much capped out at about 35 by 3000 internally, whereas an Express 4 can easily obtain speeds of 7,000 plus read and write. Okay, then of course we got Express 5 as well. That's another thing that's coming out or is out. I got to look a little bit more into that. I heard about it, but I haven't really looked into it yet. And I'm not really concerned anyways because my most powerful laptop in the house, my gamer system, only has one Express 3 slot and one Express 4 slot. So I'm kind of maxed when it comes to my drives right now as far as speeds go. So for me, it's just capacity after that, right? And I do see some amazing speeds internally on both drives, which is fantastic. But even moving those same drives outside, well, I'm going to need a Thunderbolt 4 case that's powered, but I'm still not going to see anywhere near that 7,000 read and write. I'll be lucky to see 4 or 5,000 on a good day, right? Because externally you've got the cable as an interference, you have your connection points as an interference, you have the restriction of the bus, which is much slower externally on Thunderbolt than it would be internally, okay, with direct connection to the motherboard. So, but when you're upgrading your internal drives, okay, for these kind of SSDs, and nowadays it's pretty much going to be all of this M.2, you have to know, do you have an Express 3 port or a 4? Now, it won't matter as far as putting a drive in there. Even a 4 will go to the lower speeds of a 3 and work absolutely fine. Okay, and you can put a 3 in a 4 port and you're absolutely fine. You're going to get the same speeds as you would on a regular Express 3 port anyway, right? But the Express 4, you want to buy those only for ports that are Express 4. So you have to actually contact the manufacturer of your motherboard in your desktop or tower or your laptop and find out, you know, is this an Express 3 or Express 4? Okay, or do I have one of each or whatever? Depends on your motherboard, right? But you've got to search out the manufacturer of your motherboard and its model number to find out all the specifications of every port and slot in that thing. So that's your first thing, is to look up that info for, if you're a desktop or tower, look it up there. Looking it up online for your laptop is not always going to give you that answer. Okay, so you might want to think about contacting the company for your laptop and find out, hey, is this Express 3 or Express 4? Now, commonly it's going to be gamer computers for the majority that are going to have an Express 4 port. Okay, non-gamer systems, okay, so our lower class machines, they're likely not going to have an Express 4 slot. It is possible that they might, but you don't know until you contact the manufacturer, and they're going to want your product number, your serial number for your computer so that they know what logic board you've got inside, and then they'll be able to tell you exactly what slot is in there. This way you can order the best performance drive for your computer, okay? And that's what you want to do. You want to have the fastest internal storage that you can possibly get in there, okay? And that's going to give you the best results with your computer. Plus, of course, adequate RAM for your computer, etc., right? So everything works really good and smooth and fast, right? So not a whole lot to really know about as far as that goes. Cracking open your computer, there's probably a YouTube video for your specific computer. If not, talk to the manufacturer while you got them on the phone. Say, hey, look, you know, do you have the schematic teardown for this computer? Now, I mentioned it in my last video that at least with HP, you must already be a PC technician. Okay, now I'm both PC and Apple, so it wasn't a big deal. They had no problem giving me the stuff in order to complete my task. Okay, but I've been a technician for years anyways. But if you're not a PC technician in this case, then yeah, they're not going to hand out the prints that easily or at all maybe. You know, you got to probably get the guy in the right mood, I guess, for that one. But other companies have no problem, and you could probably look up online service manuals for your computer. Maybe the information is free to download, depending on the computer that you've got, the brand, etc., whether or not that information is going to be available. But it should be. But I mean, the main thing you need it for is to know exactly how to take apart your computer, because computers don't all come apart the same way when it comes to laptops, especially. I showed you this HP earlier today in the other video. We're talking about RAM, and you've got a screw here, you got one here, you got one here, and you think that that's it. No, it's not. Even though it's all snapped together around the perimeter, that's not all your screws. You still got 4 screws across here underneath this rubber. You have to carefully and slowly peel off so you don't stretch it or wreck the adhesive. And then you got this one down here that's got 1 or 2 screws, okay? And that's going to be the same on every HP laptop that looks exactly like this on the backside, okay? That is how you would pull all the screws. And then you've got to pop it apart like I had explained. You're going to need a spudger or a guitar pick of some sort, or something to carefully get under the edge and stay close to the edge. Don't pop it too close in there, because if you break a port, you're screwed. Okay, so you got to be careful doing that. And not all laptops are going to come apart the same. This is why you need to look things up. Some laptops may still be being made with the little plates where you just undo the screws, pop off the plates, and the rest of the computer still stays together, right? You're not taking off the whole back cover. Those I love the most. Okay, and then of course you've got computers like my Asus TUF 17. There's just a whole whack load of screws. They're all exposed, and they do have different sizes too, just like the HP has different size screws. So make sure you organize things according to size and length as you take it apart, so you can know exactly where they go back in. Okay, because too long you break something, too short you're also going to break something. Okay, or it just won't thread in, period, because it's way too short. And then try getting that screw out of that hole. That's a fun chore. So you gotta, then crack that Asus apart, and they don't all come apart the same exactly, right? Desktops are a lot easier to work on. Definitely a lot easier to work on for doing that sort of thing. Laptops, a lot more finicker, a lot more careful and care that has to be taken when pulling them apart, because you don't want to break clips, you don't want to bust one of your USB connectors off, or any connector off, period, when you're trying to take the thing apart. So you got to be very careful, take your time. You can do it. It's really not that difficult. Once you've done it once, you can do it 5,000 times, later in your sleep, kind of thing. But I just wanted to touch on that about these particular drives, and you gotta do your homework on your computer to know that you're getting the right drive for your computer. And when you take out your drive, first step you could actually do would be just to pull the back cover off your laptop or crack open your desktop and pull the drive out and see what kind of key system is on there. That's going to be a dead giveaway right there, what you could be working with, right? And you could even look up the specs of this drive, and it will tell you if it's specifically an M.2 and what version it is, Express 3, 4, etc. All that info is going to be there. And sometimes manufacturers will actually put in a much slower drive even into a faster port, because at least they're giving you an SSD, right? Kind of like RAM. They sometimes put in the slower megahertz RAM, but they gave you RAM. That's all there is to it. And some companies like HP are generous, and they actually give you the proper speed right from the get-go, so you don't have to worry about it. Just buy the same speed of RAM and you're good to go, at least on their laptop. I have no idea what they do with their other systems, but that's the way mine came from the factory, so I ain't complaining. So anyways, hopefully this information helps you out and gives you a little bit of insight, and gives you some things to think about, especially in the external cases. Thunderbolt cases that are powered will give you the ultimate performance, but you also got to know the speed of which that controller in that drive unit, what its maximum speeds are, so you buy the correct speed of drive. Now, anything external, you're not going to get the rated speeds. It's not going to happen. Even if you have, an Express 4 compatible external case, well, guess what? That does not mean you're going to get 7,000 megabits per second, because you won't. You might get actually 4,000 or 3,800 or 4,500. You might get 6,200. But you're not going to get anywhere near what you could as an internal drive. Okay, but you still need a powered case to properly run the drives, because otherwise they run really hot. It can burn them out because they are amperage hogs. Let's take a quick look here. This is our M.2. This is a 256 gig drive. It's actually the one that came out of that HP laptop of mine. And the amount of amperage that it wants is actually 1.6 amps. You do not have that kind of amperage available to you even in Thunderbolt 4 on an external port. It is not available. And without that amperage, it's going to be lacking, which is why it lacks in performance externally. It's not just about bus speed limitations. It's also about the lack of amperage too, right? Now, even if the amperage was there, the drive would at least run a lot cooler and it wouldn't throttle so easily, but you're still not going to get the speeds because you're limited to the speed of the bus, okay? This other drive here, which is the B&M key drive, this was out of my HP laptop that I won from MDG. This is only 128 gig drive, and it wants 1 amp to itself, okay, to run at proper peak performance. Now, internally, you will have more than enough amperage to run these drives. Okay, you will have a fast enough bus, and you will have the amperage fully available that these drives want to run at, even under a heavy load. They will be absolutely fine. Okay, so that's something to note as well. Externally, things are going to work a lot differently. And even with a powered drive, you might end up with the amperage, but you still have a bus limitation for speed of your external bus that you're plugged into with a Thunderbolt. Okay, it depends on your version of Thunderbolt you're dealing with too. Anyway, that pretty much I think covers it, but if you have a question, feel free to ask in the comments below, and I'll do the best I can to answer it. So until next time, see ya.